Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be going over a series of videos. This one happens to be Help, I Have My First Offer. It's a whole series of videos of Help, I Have My First Showing, Help, I Have My First Open House. And the point of these series is to go through the process of each of these things that you run into, whether it be putting together an offer, whether it be putting together your first listing, doing your first open house, maybe some of the other things. I have my first rural property, I have my first assignment sale, and we'll continue to have these available on the Excel platform so that you can do a quick refresher, even if it's not your first offer, but you wanted to see the best way. And one of the things I'm finding very useful, and I know they're getting the feedback from the agents, is to have a checklist alongside every one of our processes. So whether or not that be a process that you're going to go through for the first time or just a checklist you can use every time. It's also great for teams and assistants and, putting together checklist items to be more organized and make sure nothing is left or forgotten. So this is the first time we've done this. If there is anything that you want to suggest after or have any questions, we can open up the line for any of that. There is a lot of things to do when you are representing a buyer. And I'm going to review them with you. First of all, it is for putting together an offer, negotiating that offer, what happens after the offer. However, I'm not going to be diving into how to use signatures, how to get signatures, how to use certain technology components like SkySlope or web forms, or how to use different MLS systems like Matrix or Realm. So those are different seminars to go through, but pretty much if you go through the list of items in here in your first offer, you will figure out the rest, really. I mean, whether that'll be somebody that'll help you through it if you have questions, and or if you already know that process or utilizing some of that technology, it's just important that things don't get forgotten. So that's the purpose of today, is to make sure that process of going through your first offer or an offer process is completely smooth and you're doing everything right, for your client, because that's what we're here for. So let's get right into some of the topics. We are going to talk about the pre-offer preparations to do ahead of time before you construct the offer. And then you're going to want to know how to construct that offer, again, the processes of it. And I'm not going to dive right into details of every situation that could be presented. So you'll need to think on your feet there, or utilize, our management if you have any questions. Of course, you may want to practice this process in constructing offers ahead of time and submit it to your manager for review to see how you did. So if you want to pretend selling or buying your own home, that would be a good idea. And then the presentation of the offer. So you've constructed the offer, everybody's happy, the signatures are on there, and then you're going to be sitting either down with the people that are selling their house along with the agent, and or submitting that offer for them to present to the sellers, but how to present the offer. And then after acceptance, when that offer is accepted, the due diligence and firming up process. So let's dive into the pre-offer preparations. But before we get going, this is the support checklist. I will be able to provide this checklist in this video in Excel. Also, if you want this, it'll be in the drive. I'm just tidying up, making sure everything is there, and crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and we'll have that available today. So this will be a great resource for you in there. Each one of these items I am going to go through, and I am going to go through them fairly briskly. So if you have any questions, write them down. We'll take questions at the end, and I'll be able to go through. Each offer situation is different. Every type of property, every type of buyer, as the people that have been into the business for quite some time will tell you, if it runs completely smoothly, that would be an oddity. You are going to run into different things that come up that you'll have to problem solve and you have to overcome. So every offer is a different process. However, there are great checklist items here for you to make sure that you do, and it really limits the amount of problems you're going to run into by being prepared and organized. So pre-offer preparation. One of the things I just want to say prior to getting going on anything with an offer, you should have already done a buyer presentation. You should have already taken them through the process This is just a review, essentially, of what you've always already went over with them. So if you've made the mistake, unfortunately, we do from time to time, getting right into putting an offer in for somebody because they called you and want to put an offer in, you have to back up and you have to ask lots of questions, determine their needs, make sure this is the right property for you, for them, and do some research on the property based on that presentation and these questions. So you're going to review the buyer checklist. We provide the buyer checklist in all our templates on SkySlope and web forms, which you'll be using to construct the offer. Those buyer checklists are there for a reason. Use them. Make sure that the buyers get asked the questions on it. Okay. And hopefully you've already done that. And if you haven't, you should do that now. You got to confirm with the buyer their haves and wants. Make sure that this is the right property for them. They're the one that's going to make the decision on that, by the way. It's not for you to decide if it's right for them. It's you to make sure that you present them with all the facts with regards to the property based on their motivations and their needs, and they make the decision. Write down the questions for the listing agent. So you're going to be calling the listing agent. The first thing you're going to do, let's paint a picture here. You're shown 6 properties, and those properties are they've narrowed it down, and they want to see the one, right? You are going to you're going to contact that listing agent as soon as you know that that one is of interest to them, because you want communication from that listing agent if any other interest is in on the property. They may not tell you the truth, by the way. They may say there's oh yeah, there's a ton of interest and you better get your offer in quickly. Well, you have to kind of believe them. So if they, if you give them a call and let them know that you have interest to keep you in the loop, there's a better chance there that you're establishing good communication with the listing agent, but also that they won't forget you if somebody submits an offer and you want to be kept up to date. You're not going to lose it from them just because you didn't communicate. So very important part. So write down the questions that you're going to ask that agent that the buyer has as well for the property. And I'm going to give you some examples of that one. Discuss the timelines for the offer. So you're going to call that listing agent as well, and you're going to, discuss with your buyer, when can you sit down and, get them to sign an offer? And when are we going to be able to sit down and present the offer to the listing agent or to their clients? So that needs to be established. You're going to explain to your buyer that you're going to do some more research based on that buyer questionnaire. So you've already done your buyer presentation, but this property is unique, and maybe you want to double check to make sure that zoning's in place for a pool, for example. So you're going to get back to them. Call mortgage agents or the mortgage specialist to prepare them as well. They're part of this process. It's really important from the beginning. If you haven't met them, if you haven't talked to them, now's the time to do that. Make sure that they're ready. Because if they've just taken a week vacation and you got to find out other ways of getting a mortgage approved, you need to know that. And you need to know that, you're not 200,000 over the budget either. Right. And again, it's a continuation of the conversation, right, from that buyer presentation. Then you're going to call the listing agent. And these are some of the examples of some of the questions that I would ask. Has there been any other offers on the property? You may ask questions the buyer has, right, that they want to know about the property. How old's the roof? How old's the furnace, the windows, etc. You definitely don't want to find out that the roof is ready to be replaced. The furnace is on its last legs. The windows are old. Like everything about the property during the home inspection, have it all blow up in your face. It's just good to know ahead of time. You want to base your offer on all the facts on the property that you know. I would like to present in person if possible. This is something to ask because it is a better situation, I would say 99% of the time, to be able to take an offer to somebody's house, present it, and fight for your clients, but also build a rapport with the sellers. They like you, right? You're just there to help negotiate a good deal. And it's more typical that a deal will come together smoothly and negotiate better for your client if you're able to work for them in person. So you're going to ask if that's possible. I will say now it's more often than not the listing agent that says, no, I'm going to present that. I don't want you at the property. It's just more comfortable, right? So I get it, but ask if that's possible. When, arranging timelines. Can I have an offer? You're not going to hand over that offer until you know when it's being presented, regardless if it's in person or not. Right? When can I send it to you? We'll send it right now. Well, no. When are you meeting with your clients? Make sure that you know when you're meeting, because I don't want to submit that offer early. They could say, well, yeah, tomorrow at 4. And so, okay, first of all, irrevocables till 12, right? So just know when they're available. Is there anything else I should know? Is there anything else I should know about the property? It's a great question, because you'll see really quickly, no, this property's pretty much good to go, or whatever. Or they may say, well, there is that problem with the neighbors and the fence, and then they can explain if there's some other problems there. So this is probably most underrated and underdone thing in real estate right now is communication. And I'm finding it is the big problem of the big cause of a lot of problems is that we are not speaking with good communication on the phone with the listing agent and establishing a good rapport. We always find it's like us against them, and that's just not the case. We're trying to find as much information to put this deal together. Everyone wins. You're laying the foundations to the negotiation. So be careful giving out the motivation of the buyers. If they're a good listing agent, they will probably start negotiating right away. Well, tell me about your buyers. What can they afford? Are they pre-approved? Where do they work? All these sort of questions. And it's okay to answer certain things to establish the rapport and to have strength, but every answer should be with strength. So they have great employment, right? They've been pre-approved, but not only that, with the person I know, right, rather than their own bank, etc. Because it's always better to have a mortgage specialist working on things than just the bank, right? 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, they take their time. They're not motivated with a lot of different reasons. So mortgage specialist is who they're working with, and I've taken them through the full process. They need to know you're a good agent. Okay. So call that listing agent. You are going to do some research. You are going to go into your MLS system and you're going to find as much information probably on your computer, because it's so readily available now, as possible. There are a few reports that I would buy every single time I put an offer in. I want to know everything I can about that property. Here's an example of a report that I would purchase. It is $36. Remember, you have expenses when it comes to your real estate career. You have income, and it's good income, and you have expenses, and this is a write-off. Do not worry about paying $36 for a report that tells you all the charges on the property. So anything that's leaned against it, if there's any problems that might be there, their mortgage amount is going to be registered on there, right? How much is mortgage is registered for. Now, don't take this, just know that people like a bank, first bank of Canada, it says First Bank of Canada here as an example. This is a sample. It says there's a 700 and a 300. Does that mean their mortgage is 700 and 300,000? So it's, does that mean that it's $1 million mortgage? No, that just means that there's a charge against it for that amount. They may have a HELOC, a home equity line of credit for 900,000, and their mortgage is only 100, and that line of credit is completely paid off. So they could only have a 100. This doesn't tell you what they owe in their mortgage. It tells you what it's registered against. So just the little things like that. Don't read this and try and interpret it as, don't misinterpret it. But the things you're looking for is things like liens. A $9,000 lien, okay, indicates that they have a lien. That just means there is something that you might want to bring up as, what that lien may be, right? And if there's things in here that really, stand out, you can always ask your manager, lawyer, etc., just to kind of work your way through this. But it's great information. Your buyer would be super happy you did this. The other thing I would do is buy a $9 report on the property line. Again, both property line and Geo Warehouse are available through the board. If you're on the PropTex or Treb board, some of this is actually right on the screen. Some of the information anyway, with Realm. And Matrix doesn't have it, but Realm does. So each MLS is a little different. So just know that as well. But this property line report will give you more information about things such as the square footage, age of the property. It'll also tell you on here, let's see, the frontage and sometimes depth, some of the information about, is it a 3-bedroom, 4 half baths and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes if it said, for example, 3, but it's listed as a 4, chances are somebody's added something to the property, right? So it just kind of lets you give an overview. But the total floor area is interesting, right? So above grade square footage in this case is 1591. So if they're saying it's 2,500, you were at the property and it didn't seem like 2,500, chances are maybe the agent was wrong or measured it wrong. So the year that was built as well gives you good indication on certain things. It's just a great overview of what is here. Now, this report also has permits. There's also some permits that you can get on this report as well. And it'll tell you whether or not, yeah, the building permit history comes with this one. So that's the other thing that's new and I like, right? So now you don't have to go into the town to find out that there was or wasn't a permit taken out that maybe is open and not closed. In this case, the permit details are below here. That's what I was looking for. And so it shows that it was an addition put on the house and it was closed off. If it says addition and open, you know that they have to close that before closing. You would put a clause in there to represent your people saying that you have an open permit currently with the town and you need to close that off so we can get clear title and clear permit issues, any issues. So research. Going into more research, area influences. Again, every MLS is different. I did bring up Realm because I did want to show you as an example of ways you can get information. There are other ways, of course. Google's a great thing. But if you're looking for school catchment areas, for example, to find out they want to go to Stuart Scott Public School, so you go on to Realm and you click on this little layer on the map and you choose schools, then a school little bubble will pop up, and then you click on that bubble and it'll tell you what school, Stuart Scott, for example, and then what is that area that that house is in. And if this is the house you're purchasing down here, and this is the school they want to go to, you may have a problem. So make sure you look into it. These are things, again, you bring back to the buyer and they say, no, I have to go to that school. I thought that was in the right catchment area. And then it may be a phone call to the board to see if we can get them in even. Okay. So these are the things that are very important. Schools like development, it could be something with the town that knowing your area is really important. And if there's a development going up, an empty lot next door, that sort of thing, you need to find out, right? And every situation is different. So make sure you look into every opportunity that you can take to teach that buyer what's going on in that area. Is there any group homes? Right. You might go to the municipality and say, do you have a list of all the addresses of the registered group homes in the area of Newmarket, for example? You will get that from them and they'll be happy to know whether or not their next door neighbor, it could be a positive thing, could be a negative thing. That's up for them to decide, but it's the information you're giving them to make that informed decision. And your buyer will be super happy. Any of the buyer concerns that you brought up at your buyer meeting, buyer presentation, and of course, the conversations you've had with them need to be addressed. Pools, that's another big one. You need to go and find out if they want a pool in that backyard. You need to find out that there isn't some sort of hydro easement or, municipal covenant or something that says you cannot do that. Okay. So that is super important. Mini CMA. You're going to do a mini CMA. If you don't know how to do a CMA, that's okay. We do have training on it. A mini one is basically not going into adjustments. You could do a full CMA if you'd like, but I typically would suggest pull off all the comparable properties that are currently listed on the market, maybe ones that have also sold as well, to show the buyer what the price ranges are going for, right? And they're going to make an informed decision on what they feel comfortable in terms of asking. They're going to ask for your opinion. And to be honest with you, it's okay. It's okay to give them your opinion. Is this in the right areas? It's the right, but it's important for you to give them good advice. And that advice would be, you've got to be comfortable with the price. I'll show you the statistics. These are facts. We can have the discussion. I can give you my opinion, but it's your decision. And remember, I always say this, 10 years later, when you go back, are you going to be concerned? You're going to remember the fact that now your price of your house is completely different when you purchased it. You're going to remember about the $5,000 or $10,000 difference. No, we're going to get you the best price we can today. And that's going to be for you to be comfortable with. But just so base it on, the comfort level, I guess, and all the information that you can provide them. They've probably already seen all the properties because you've shown them all the comparables, and they have a pretty good idea what they think is a good fair market value. try and, when you're doing your CMA or mini CRMA, that you're not going to give them, comparables that sold 2 years ago, or if you're looking at two-story homes, you're not going to send them a list of bungalows. You're going to really want to hone it down to the very similar home, similar market in terms of the last 30 days, for example, last 60 days. And you can give them a range where you're comfortable with that house sitting in. You're going to communicate that research with the buyer. So the results from the agent call as well, right? So you called the agent, you asked them questions, you went back to the buyer, you told the buyer the answers, you gave them all your research, all your documentations, your mini CMA, and you can discuss the price and the condition that's going to go in your offer. And you probably should do that. I mean, you can do that over the phone is fine. Definitely don't do all this over email and stuff. Like, it's okay to send them documents over email, but you want to communicate discussions on this face to face or over the phone. Okay. And you're going to construct your offer. Now you have all the information. You've got your feedback from your buyer. You're going to tell them that, okay, give me a couple hours. Let me get everything this together. Can we meet back maybe in the office in 2 hours? And you are going to construct that offer. We have a service. I just thought I'd bring this up. That's called virtualoffer.ca. It's great for new agents because it does allow you the satisfaction of knowing that somebody else is helping you along the process to put together the offer. Of course, it's your offer. You're going to construct it and tell the front desk what it is you want in that offer. And we have a nice form for that, and it's digital. So it's virtualoffer.ca. You can submit it to any one of our offices. You'll be assigned a front desk person to type that offer, and you can chat with them, and they'll put it into your web forms and or SkySlope. We tend to support SkySlope now a little more than web forms that we've had in the past. I think it's a better product as well. So, but it provides that second look too, right? They're going to make sure that there's nothing glaringly from an administrative standpoint missing. Okay. It's your offer. If they made a mistake by doing something on there that maybe they've made a mistake on the spelling of a name, that's still your offer. You've got to catch that mistake. So you're always going to review what they put together, but this is a great way just to have them do that for you. If you're a busy agent, also a great way to save some time. And it's like your personal assistant. It's great. Organizes your forms for you. They can do it both web forms and SkySlope, saves you some time. Now, if you're going to do it yourself, which is, I like that. I mean, you want to learn, right? You're going to create it within SkySlope. You're going to log into SkySlope through your board, and you're going to hit create. Now, I will tell you, they do have something that says start a buyer agreement. They put that there kind of strategically. It really reminds you that you should have already had a buyer agreement in place. We are not going to go through the RICO brochure. We're not going to be going through representation, anything like that, because you've already done that, right? It should be done at a different time of the offer. And if you haven't done it yet, you're going to do it first separately. Get the buyer representation in place, go through the brochure, explain everything, have them sign it. Okay. And then you're going to talk about the offer. Okay. RICO will look for that. Your regulatory body will check to see if you rushed it at the end or you did it in a separate sitting, because they want to make sure it was properly done and sat down and explained. And when somebody's putting an offer in, they're too excited about the offer to be really concentrating on the services you provide. And you should already have that in place anyway. It's just good business practice. So you should already have that. Now you're going to create the offer though, by hitting create. And you're going to choose one of our templates. Both web forms and SkySlope are super similar. So they will have a list of different templates that have all your forms that you'll need in there. Okay. Treb is now, just so you know, prop text 2. So Treb/prop text. And things are changing in that landscape. So your residential freehold is there. You'll click on there if that's what it is. If it's a condo, it's a condo. If it's a commercial property, it's a commercial property. So your forms will be properly put in already. Just so you know, again, I'm not going to go through it, but if you've forgotten, and if you didn't do it separately, you're going to do it separately now. You are going to go through the RICO information guide. Even if you've handed it to them in the past and you didn't get a signature, now's the time to get that signature to make sure that you can prove that they read it over and you explained it to them. You are going to go through the confirmation of cooperation. Again, this is dictating exactly who's representing who and how is commission being paid? Okay. Two things that is super important there. You are going to go and fill that in. Now, this is actually filled in for you. And the reason why it is because, well, there was changes and we want to make sure you get it right. And this is 99% of the time. It's the listing brokerage is representing the interest of the seller. And they are probably providing designated representation, but that's for them to decide. If it's wrong, they can change it, but we're assuming it's designated. And number four, the cooperating brokerage. We are the cooperating brokerage providing designated representation. That's what our brokerage does. That's what we provide for our buyer. And we will be getting paid a 2.5% commission from the selling brokerage. That's what I've put on here, and that's the way I've filled it out. Again, this seminar isn't necessarily to show you how to fill in every form, because that's something you've been taught, and every situation is different. So make sure you know how to fill this in. If it's not what it says here, then you shouldn't put what I'm showing you here, right? So if you're in a different situation, the nice thing with Tressa is that there's clear definition, it's transparent, and a lot less opportunity for multiple representation and situations we don't want to put our clients through. So you are going to scroll down through the paperwork and just construct the offer, right? So all the different things that, again, I'm not going to go through. This is not a construction of offer seminar. This is, I've got a buyer who wants to put an offer in, and what's the process? So the process is you will fill out the agreement of purchase and sale. Just so you know, we've sort of made it a little easier for you. We've put all the clauses that are typical in every agreement that really should never be taken out unless they want them taken out. And if that's the case, they should still be in there and you can cross them out when you go to do signatures. At least they read it over and they know, oh, I could put an offer conditional upon a financing and home inspection. Well, yeah, that's pretty typical. But because of the 10 offers that are currently on the property, you have a less likely chance of getting the deal. But don't worry, we can do a quick home inspection, or we've already confirmed financing. You got, you're comfortable, and if you are comfortable already with financing, we can stroke that out. But they need to know that it's important. By the way, if you do take anything out like that, Form 127. Okay, write that down. Form 127 will get you, I'm going to say get you out of trouble, but really what it's there for is full disclosure to the buyer that there are risks associated with removing conditions and going firm on properties without financing in place or doing a home inspection, for example. And that can be utilized for anything. There's a group home next door. You think that the group home is going to cause some problems because it's a certain type of group. It's just, they need to know. It's a stigma. So you fill out 127, say they know that there's a group home next door. They say, yeah, I'm taking it anyway. We're going to use it as a this or that, or we're okay with it. So again, it's a great form. When you are looking for Schedule B, because I think that was the one thing I'm like, oh yeah, Schedule B. You always have to remember, you're looking for Schedule B. It is typically attached within the listing in your MLS. Okay. And you can see that with the attachments. You're going to click on it and you're going to read it. Every Schedule B is different. These are the clauses that the listing brokerage is trying to insert into your offer. There is only one clause that they have to insert, and that is the balance should be retained by the deposit holder, and the amount of interest earned is what is happening with their interest. Okay, and I'm bringing this up because I think it's very important to know. This is the only clause that they really have to. And this one here, this is another deposit clause. Anything to do with the deposit, how it's being held, any interest it gets, what's going on with it. That's what's important. All this other stuff is stuff that the agent or the brokerage has decided, I want this in there. If you read it over and you don't like it, or if you don't know what it means, or if there's an issue, or if your buyer reads it over and they have a problem, and if you explain it and they have a problem with it, you're going to cross it out. Okay. You are allowed to do that. This is not what they say has to be in there. Well, they might say that, right? They might say it has to be, but the reality is it doesn't. The only thing that has to be is the first two clauses in this case. Anything to do with the deposit and what's happening with it, that needs to be in there. It's part of the regulations. That's the reason why Schedule B was really put in there in the first place. Very important to review it. There's a lot of crappy stuff they put in there. This one I pulled off, I haven't even really read through it all. It looks like there's 2 pages to this one, by the way. And when I was just like, oh, this is, some brokers trying to clause themselves out of due diligence and representation in a lot of cases. And there's certain things that I just let them get away with because it doesn't affect my buyer and the buyer's okay with it. But they really shouldn't put it in there. There's no reason for it. But anyway, so that's Schedule B. You're going to either download it to your computer, print it off, scan it in, however you need to do, but you need to get it into your offer. I suggest you upload it. You save it as a PDF, upload it within the SkySlope system. So now you have an attached document you can print along with it and or send off for signatures. So you're going to add it. Okay. So again, another checklist item. Make sure the Schedule B is included. You have reviewed it with your buyer. And then you're going to review the whole package with your client. You're going to sit there and get signatures and initials everywhere you need to. I've put this as an example. One, because I wanted to quickly give you something just to look at, but this one actually has initials on it, but it looks like the reason, I'm going to bring it up in a minute, the reason why I put this here is just to show you, yeah, anywhere where you need initials, you need initials. The original one's not going to have all these crossouts because it's not a sign back, but I'm going to talk about sign backs in a minute. Just make sure that you do have, obviously, your signatures. So talking digital signatures, there is the digital DigiSign along with SkySlope. Very easy to use, drag, drop, and then you can send it for signatures. Be very careful with that. If you are not in person while they sign it, you can't explain it to them. So that's going to cause issues down the road if you're sitting in front of Rico or a judge trying to convince them that, yes, you did sit down with them. Yes, you did explain everything. Well, it looked like you just had them digitally sign and you weren't in person. And so Zoom's your best friend now. Google Meets, Microsoft Teams. We all know how to use that now. You should be logging in and you should be sending them a link as you review it with them, maybe when they open up their email, and go ahead and sign it. So you're explaining everything to them if you're doing it digitally. If you're not, print it off, take it to them, sit down with them, go through, get real signatures. That's what I'm a fan of. And I know that that's a way better way to do it. Okay, so you've got everything. You've got signatures. Guess what? There is compliance now. And this is so important now. And they have made it easier. Okay, so everybody's going to be using FinTracker moving forward. It is digital, it's paperless, and it's easy. You need to let the client know. I think the pamphlet that we include in our templates is very important because they need to know that we're doing this because of the government regulations. It's not because we want to, right? We want their information. That's fine. But some of the questions and everything you have to go through within FinTrack, I mean, you are assessing risk of money laundering, essentially, right? So you need to fill it in properly. If they live within, the live within 5 kilometers or of a border, for example, or 50 kilometers of a border, I forget what it was. I don't fill them in very often, as you can tell. And that's the question. And they do, then yes, they do. That doesn't mean they can't do a transaction. That doesn't mean that their information is going to FinTrack and this person's money laundering. It doesn't at all. And even if they're non-Canadian resident, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't purchase a property. That just means other things. But, in terms of taxes and stuff, but for FinTrack purposes, it just doesn't let them know this is not going to anybody. This is for our audits. But if somebody does commit a fraud, they do money laundering, and then they look for the FinTrack and you answered a question wrong, you are now liable. Well, I'm not going to get into liability, but you answered it wrong. So answer right. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so as you go through the stuff there, answer the right information, fill out the FinTracker. Just so you know, FinTracker is free completely. If anytime it's asking you to pay, it's because you've used up your 5 remote IDs. They're free too. After 5, they cost money, $4. So that means if you want to get them to fill this in because you're not in person, you can put their information there. It'll ask them to open it up, scan a picture of them, the back of their ID, ask them some questions, and then it'll come back to you. And then you have to fill out the rest. It makes it a little easier. I'm not going to lie. It's very cool and very great technology. It needs to be done, but it does cost money after 5. But if you're in person, no problem. You can do it without any cost. You are going to register that offer. So you have it all signed. You are going to register it. When should you register it? Well, if they're holding off offers for Friday and you have it signed today, you're going to register it today. It scares off everyone else, right? It's not an indication of, you're coming with amazing price and all this kind of stuff. It's just to make sure that you will not get this house sold from underneath you and your client. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I think it actually backs people up, right? It goes, hey, there's already a registered offer. I don't want to be in multiples. And they don't even show the property. There's some tough, bad agents out there. Like there's some people that just don't get it. And there's some buyers that don't get it either, to be honest with you. So by registering that offer, I can't see there being a negative to that. So register the offer as soon as you have it signed. Call the agent, right? Why not? I mean, I don't know why not, because I see it all the time, and it's not a complaint. It's just reality. Reality is, agents will, for whatever reason, try and keep this quiet. Not tell anybody. They've got an offer and they're ready to present, and then even when they do present, they send it off. They don't talk to them ever. Some people are introverts out there, and I understand that, but you got to call the agent and you got to make sure they have the offer if you sent it. You got to have the registration if you've registered. You've already talked to them already and asked the questions, and now's the time to let them know. And you're working with them. So register early, confirm with the agent, send the offer to the agent if you know they're presenting. I'm not sending an offer ever unless I know when they're presenting and what time they're presenting. And then I will send it when they go to present. I'll not do it early. I'll not let them sit with this offer in their hand for a day or two. Okay. That's the key when you're doing it remotely. Of course, if you're doing it in person, you're going to show up with the offer, maybe a couple extra copies as well, right? So you can give them each a copy. And then you're going to present that offer. And when you're presenting, if in person, that's great when possible. If not, make sure it's a short process. And what I mean by that is listing agents love to draw out the process because that allows them to go and shop around, try and get two more offers or another offer. One offer, they know they're getting like full price or more. So they're going to try and do that. If I know that they are not holding off offers, I'm registering now and I'm presenting at 7, I want to make sure it's getting done tonight, irrevocable till 11 o'clock. I'm going to ask to present in person. I'm going to ask when are they going to be there and when can I get a sign back and where are my clients and how do I get to them and all that sort of stuff. Okay. You're going to talk when you do present, whether it's to the agent or them, focus on the strengths of your offer, right? It could be financing, it could be the quality of the individual, it could be price, it could be whatever the strength you feel is on that offer. And always look for those seller motivations, right? If it looks like maybe they're getting a divorce or separation or something in place, there are certain motivations in order to, take it, hate to say it, take advantage. You're working for your client here, right? But you are. And you want to make sure that you focus on those things. So if price is less important, but closing date is important, then I'll be focusing on the closing date that you're giving them and bring down the price. Work with the agent, right? You're there just as much as they are to get the job done. You're both representing interests. We get that. No sense in putting up walls, right? In the process. No sense in getting, stuck on something that is not reasonable, right? No sense in, getting mad at them for whatever reason, right? There are going to be difficult situations, no doubt. I will say 90% of the problems that come up have to do with clear communication. Okay. So make sure you set up those very clear ways that you're going to communicate from the beginning. Do not get into texting wars. Do not get into emails back and forth. It's always by phone or in person. The only time you should be texting and or emailing is to confirm something. So you have it in writing. If you need to confirm an acceptance, if you need to confirm a price, even because a lot of times, you'll talk to them and say, no, confirm they're going to accept, if you want it in writing. By the way, that's not in writing. So just so you know, I take back price actually. But anyway, when it comes to texting and or email, what is in that text or email can be used against you later if it was to brought to court or something, but it's never something that's your buyer or seller are going to have to do unless it's in writing. So what I mean by that is if you've said you will pay $860 and then they go and say, yeah, my seller will accept $860. And then your buyer says, no, 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 just go 850. And you put down 850 and send it in. And they said, no, I have you on writing by text that you said 860. They can't hold you to that. The one rule in real estate that is a very good rule is everything must be reduced to writing. Okay. Which means unless it's signed off under seal, guaranteed, there is no deal. Okay. So pro tip, never let an offer die in your hands. Always sign back. It's just a tip. Okay. So it doesn't mean every situation. I mean, you may decide to walk away from something on purpose to see if they blink, but that rule does hold true in most situations when even if you've walked away, see if they blinked, and then you say, okay, they didn't blink. Always sign something back. Get your buyers to put something in paper. We're here to negotiate on behalf of your sellers and buyers, in this case, your buyers. And you know they want the property. Maybe they got a little, upset with something, that was said or done, or something but in the end, it's the best interest to let them know, hey, put it in put it in writing. Let's try and keep this thing alive. So anyway, just a little tip. Always reduce to writing. I already went over that. Phone versus text. Sounds like I've already gone ahead of myself. Each offer is a new offer. That's another thing here. Here is a sign back. And I brought this up earlier. I told you I would bring it up again. Here's a sign back. The offer was for $1 million, and now it's being signed back for 980. And it looks like we have an initial at 980, have initial at the written 980. Remember, this is one thing that I see a lot, especially new agents, forgetting to change the irrevocable. Every offer is a new offer as you go back and forth, even though we call it sign backs. It's actually legally described as a new offer, okay, which means it has to be from somebody to somebody and accepted by somebody. So this needs to be accurate. So make sure that when you're signing something back, let's say we got this back as the buyer on the first sign back. Now we're going to cross out 980 and put let's say, well, in this case, let's put it, I know it came down in price, so it doesn't make a lot of sense that the sellers brought it down. But let's say that was the case and we want to change it to 970. We'll cross out 970. We'll put an initial there by both the, or in this case, one buyer, by the one buyer, and then by the buyer over here, because you're going to change it here, but you have to sign it back. You have to cross out seller. You have to put buyer, have them initial. And then if you're changing the time, you can do that as well. But hopefully you're negotiating before 11 o'clock and you won't have to change that. So that's a sign back. The other thing is because it's a new offer, every sign back's a new offer. Okay, just remember that because there's certain things that you have to remind yourself. Let's say I was just to send back that first page. Would that be right? And the answer is no. Every single offer is a new offer. Therefore, it has to be sent in its entirety. Every page. Okay, so make sure that when you're sending it back and forth, you're dealing with the full offer, and the full offer comes forward and back every single time. Okay. Be respectful, work with your client's best interest, and we've kind of already gone through that. The signature page. Okay. The last person to touch the offer, okay, signs the confirmation of acceptance. I know I said I wasn't going to get into the weeds of this, but I'm pointing out things that are these things that I just have to. If we're going to go through the process, and I'm going to have a checklist item or whatever, this is what I'm going to checklist, right? So, or at least make sure you understand, is that when do you have a deal? Is when the paperwork is the same on both sides, meeting of the minds, right? Everybody agrees to everything. All the initials are there just to confirm everyone's agreement. That's when you have a deal. It's not when you can confirm the acceptance. So the confirmation of acceptance is below the seal, which means it's actually not part of the offer. It's just tidy up paperwork. It's just to confirm that it was that person that did actually sign it last. And that confirms the fact that everyone agreed and that was the last agreement. Okay, so that's just, I always have to explain that for people, and it's one signature. You can't have two people at the same time agree. It wasn't, or sign, it's the last person to touch the offer. The rest of the stuff is just fill in, right? So it's just acknowledgments, etc. that I got a copy. It's proof. It's very important that you have proof, right? So it's not that it's not important, but it's actually not part of the offer, right? Everyone should get a copy, obviously. When saying copy in the old days, everyone would get a true copy. So that means everyone has to sign it 5 times over. That doesn't have to happen anymore. They consider now an electronic transfer let's say by copy, fax, email, whatever is fine. Nothing could be changed without an amendment. Now that it's done, it's done. You cannot change this. Somebody, oh yeah, I forgot to include the dishwasher, right? You can't go back and add in dishwasher and have everybody initial again. You can't do that. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. You can't touch it. You need to do an amendment for that, and then you'll do that amendment and send it for signatures. You have a deal regardless of the deposit as well. Again, these are things, again, that I do want to go into the weeds a little bit. I said I wouldn't, but you have a deal. As soon as that everyone's agreed, even if it's conditional upon any home inspection, etc., there is a deposit clause in here, and it says you have to do it. You have to give the deposit within 24 hours. Okay. If you didn't, it's voidable. People could probably get out of the deal. So you have to, and it's enforceable too. So if a buyer just says, I'm not going to hand in the deposit, I want to walk away, and there's conditions, then they're walking away for financing or home inspection, but they're not walking away because they just changed their mind. They're not walking away because they don't want to give the deposit. That would be not right. So legally. So make sure that if you're especially in a multiple offer situation and they're submitting it, they know as soon as they sign off and say, I've bought this property, they bought the property, especially if it's firm, right? There's no conditions. They bought it. Well, I changed my mind. I'm not going to give them the deposit. Okay, but you're going to get sued, right? So that is important. Arrange that deposit. Now you're going to go to the buyers and say, okay, hopefully you've prepared them for this in your buyer presentation. You obviously, had to let them know that within 24 hours, and they signed the agreement 24 hours. That means within 24 hours. That doesn't mean within 24 banking hours, unless you changed it, but it's 24 hours. So make sure that you do get that deposit from the buyer, or have the buyer send the deposit, depending on the instructions. If a lot of it's now wire transfer and drop off at the bank or whatever. And then we want to confirm and get a receipt. The receipt is part of the due diligence. We need to have a receipt. We also need a receipt of funds. Back to FinTracker. The second time you're going to pop open that app, you're going to fill out the receipt of funds, because you need to know, this is the most important part of all the transaction comes with FinTrack. They want to know the flow of money. Anything more than $10,000, which is most deposits, need to be FinTracked, which means we need to know the account that it came out of. We need to know information, fill it in, and fill it in properly. Okay. Use the pamphlet if needed. If you give you have to do it, right? So they explain some why. Sometimes they want to give things like account numbers and stuff like that. That's fine. It's just they're higher risk, right? So, and you've got to fill it out that way. Unfortunately, right? But if they, can just let them know it came from the checking account, here's the checking account number, perfect. It's paperless, it's easier. So moving forward, definitely do it. Okay. After the acceptance of the offer. So now what we have a potentially now either in this case, I had clauses in there for home inspection and finance condition. So we have what we call a conditional deal. Okay. As soon as you have a deal in place, you need to fill out the sales information sheet and send it into the office. It's a RICO requirement. We need to have all paperwork within a certain amount of time, and we need to have that so that we have a lot of reasons why we need that, but you need to fill it in. Okay. I know it's a pain in the butt. You got to fill it all in and send it into us, but we need to make sure we process this properly for you. And it's a process. So fill it in and hand in everything you have. It could still be conditioned, so you still have more stuff coming, but we create a file. The front desk opens up a file. They put it in there neatly. They go through it. Deal secretaries have a look at it, make sure it's all proper. They check over everything for you. This is a great service, right? It really is. Some of our dealermen have been with us for 40 years. I mean, if we added up our dealermen in terms of their experience for processing deals, it's crazy how much experience is back there. They're great, but they are also diligent and they protect you. So things like, actually, I won't go through it yet. Things like the deficiency list that they're going to remind you, I'm going to show it to you in a minute, is not a pain in the butt. It's just to cover your butt. Okay. So now what you're going to do is you're going to book the inspection. And this is why we have this seminar. There's a process and there's things in place that go one after another. And sometimes, and I've done it. I've done. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to call that inspector, and I needed that, at a certain time. So you're running around trying to find another inspector. The reality is, if you can get the inspection done, booked in, so that with the person that you like to use, you're gonna have a better process, better service for your client. Your client's going to choose the inspector. However, you're going to probably provide them with 3 of the top inspectors that you recommend, right? And the inspection should be maybe the day before the expiry of the condition. So if you put 5 business days, book for the 4th business day. It gives them time to get the full inspection report and everything. And it also gives you time to get financing in place, so you don't pay for an inspection and then find out financing fell apart. So that's why dates are important. So book the inspection day before the condition, prepare the client. This is amazing, how much problems this eliminates. You let them know, okay, so we talked about this in the buyer presentation. You're going to have an inspection of the property and it's going to be a negative process. Tell them, be honest upfront. It's going to be negative. Why? Because that's the inspector's job, to give you a report of everything that's wrong with that property. How can that be positive? So I'm going to put on my negative hat for a second and say that probably is going to come back with a whole laundry list of things that a buyer is not going to like and want to do. I'm like, what do you mean? This house is garbage. It's a lemon. And no, there are minor things that are in every single home. And there are things that you think are major that aren't major. A crack in the foundation is not a major problem unless it's a certain type of crack, right? So most cracks are just, vertical cracks that happen with every home. And as long as it's not leaking, it's not a problem. If it leaks, then yeah, we'll fix it. But that fix comes with a warranty and it's not an expensive fix. We may ask the seller to do it, but we need to know about it. So yes, you're going to go through a whole list and tell them ahead of time that you're probably going to be a little bit skeptical on that inspection, but the minor things are minor. You're going to attend it, right? So you're there to, definitely buffer and understand what's happening the full time. With the inspector, I used to tell the homeowners or the buyers, a lot of times they're excited. They want to go through the house and spend some time in it. That's fine too. But I tell them, you know what, if you don't want to kind of waste the 3 hours, just come for the last hour and they'll go through a full report with you. It's kind of boring for the other 2. I'll be there for all 3. Full report, it will take time. So they'll go through most likely the home inspectors that I've used will go through a walkthrough of the house and point out all the minor and major things, but the full report will be sent over email in the next 24 hours. So those minor known issues are typical. The major ones can be addressed or maybe a price adjustment. If those need to be addressed or price adjustment, you're going to need to do an amendment, and you'll fill that in and send it over and, call the agent, let them know what's going on. The notice of fulfillment to firm up the deal. Okay, I'm going to bring it up a couple times and show it to you, but that's where you may want to start filling it in if everything's okay. I will tell you that you'll have the fulfillment on the financing and maybe you want to do it on the same one, so you won't have to do it twice. Waiver or an amendment also can remove conditions and firm up deals. However, a waiver means that you're waiving the home inspection. That's not what you're doing. You're not waiving a home inspection. You're fulfilling the requirement to do it, and you found, everything's good, or you've negotiated. So fill the notice, not the waiver, because it's the right form. Waivers like it never existed. So if it's brought up in court, and they say, well, no, the home inspection never existed. Can't even bring it up. They waived it. They waived it. It's not like you did it and you found something. You waived it. So it does mean something different. So notice fulfillment's better. And or amendment. If you're adjusting the price and taking away the conditions, you can do that in one amendment, just so you know, and I'll show that. Let's talk financing for a second. There's 2 conditions. Obviously, financing is the other one. You're going to call the mortgage specialist right away. You know that anyway. And then every other day after, because you're on them. And you got to let them know you're trying to make this work, and they're, you don't want to nag them, but you want to make sure you get the updates, find out the process, help facilitate. Could take 3 to 5 days. That notice of fulfillment to firm up conditions is filled out as well when they get the financing. Keep in mind, down here, there may still be outstanding conditions in your mortgage commitment. Make sure the client is aware of them and they can fulfill them. There have been times where, they require a certain letter from where this came from or that went to, and that letter needs to be provided. And if they can't get it for some reason, or if they, In my personal deal, I actually didn't know about the condition. The mortgage specialist didn't even tell me about this condition about until a week before closing. And they said, "Oh, by the way, that $10,000 that you took out of your RSP, I need a letter." And this, I'm like, "Whoa, wait, wait, I'm closing next week. You're telling me a condition? Oh yeah, I forgot there was a condition." I go, "That's not good, right? You need to know this ahead of time. So you don't want surprises." Okay. Um, Again, waiver amendment will also firm these things up as well if you need to do a waiver. The reason why I would do a waiver is if in a strange situation where they didn't get financing, okay, but they know they can. They said, "I'm good with it. Listen, I've got this, that. I've got lots of money. I'm going to waive my right to financing condition instead of fulfilling your financing." That's where you'll use a waiver. I'm waiving that right, opposed to fulfilling the finance condition. Fulfilling means you got financing. It's really what you're saying. So again, there's differences. Um, I would, after you've booked in the home inspector and all the rest of it, and even before, even before, just put in the dates into your calendar. I know it sounds silly, but pop open your calendar, create a finance condition date for 9 o'clock, in this case on that Wednesday, and I'd even add the client to it, so they know they've got a financing condition due at a certain time on a certain date. I think it's a great opportunity in order to put that stuff in. So condition expiries, home inspections, closing date, 1 year home anniversary to remind you. I've got a CRM for that, but these are important things to remind. And then weekly check-ins even. As soon as you firm up on a deal and you got the close coming up in 2 months, those weekly check-ins. Okay, so if you guys booked, if you need any help, you need any referrals, you need any, how's everything going? You don't want to just, firm up a deal and disappear on your client. It's a lot to do with the client care and referrals is what you're doing, and it's a better process, and you can help them through it. So when you do decide the finance and the home inspection have been completed, everything's good, you're going to fill out a notice of fulfillment. You're going to put the condition exactly the way it was worded in the agreement. Okay, so you cut, you paste, you put them in there, make sure it's worded. You're going to put delete those two conditions. If you're doing, sorry, you're not doing delete, you're doing a fulfillment. That's not okay. So fulfillment, you don't have to put delete because you're fulfilling those conditions. You put them in here, put the date on it. You are dating it, signing it, sending it over for acknowledgement to them to say it's firmed up. Congratulations, you purchased a house. That's the congratulatory documentation. Financing's in place, inspection satisfactory. Okay, so that's good. Notice of fulfillment. You are going to get a trade record. As soon as this is handed in, I'm going to, you're handing in documents all the time. And I'm going to show you what we do to make sure that we get the right documentation, but you're going to have a trade record sent to you. The trade record is confirming all the details of everything you provided in terms of financing. Meaning, what did you sell the property for? What's financing on the commission side, by the way? What did you sell the property for? What was the commission rate? Who's getting what the HST is, what your check's going to look like, including HST, as well as split with the company, and all that stuff's in there. Okay, so you're going to read it through. Make sure you understand it. First one, you might review it with your manager just so you can explain, like we can explain how it all works. And then you're going to get your signature on it, along with our broker of record, just to make sure that she agrees, Isabel, agrees as well. So she's going to sign off, you're going to sign off, and that way everybody knows what the payments are. You are going to get weekly notifications after acceptance. We've submitted the documentation, and these are all the things that are outstanding, right? So you're going to go in and see that, you needed the required signed trade record sheet, the agent sales info sheet, the waivers and fulfillments, all that stuff will be told to you. And SkySlope's great for that. You just go in, you can actually, if you want, you can upload it directly in SkySlope. It'll be in there for you, or hand it to the front desk, or, some people just email it direct, but I personally think the best way to do this is upload it yourself. And I think we'll get to that point where everybody's going to need to do it that way, because it's a clear communication that it has been uploaded. Nobody's let it sit in spam, or something happened in an email or a handover, or somebody didn't do something. So you are fully you're fully equipped in order to submit it yourself digitally and get confirmation of that. You'll never have that question as did I or did I not hand it in. Okay, so use SkySlope for that. These are the last little pointers before we wrap things up here is you're after acceptance, you've handed in the paperwork, you've even closed out the deal and you called them on closing date and said, congratulations, you handed them a gift, which should be part of your checklist as well, is that you're going to, I call it Realtor for Life program. And I would, if I were you, call it the same thing. I have a Realtor for Life program. I am your Realtor for Life. I'm going to put their information to a client retention management system, Remarketer, for example. And you're going to put nice dates in there for occasions like one year anniversary. Now you can do that in there. We're going to send out a testimonial on your behalf. So that's automated through our system. So they can put a testimonial. Maybe you want to get them to do it on Google. So when they fill that in, can you do it twice and put one on Google? You're constantly calling them every quarter. You have a loyalty program, so you're giving them referrals or thank yous for referrals and printed newsletters. Twice a year, popping by and giving them a gift. Once a year, you're doing a portfolio review, and you can do a quick video of what's happening in the marketplace, for example. Great one. And don't forget to ask for referrals. The whole key to this, but the gold that you can put on in every deal or every client that's ever worked with you is if you overservice them, make them super, super happy, your business is going to explode. And that's where your 85% of your business comes from, all those referrals. One client is probably worth $12,000 if they do a deal with you. One client that's happy is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of your business. And it's because they're giving you a couple deals this year, a couple deals next year. If they're friends, their family, they're referring you people. Okay. That is the key to this business. Okay, I do on our last screen just have a Linktree link if you want to take your phones out and you can add add yourselves to any of our Instagram, Facebook, chat. We've got chat groups as well, WhatsApp as well. If you have questions and you just wanted to maybe run it by or talk to the other networked individuals in our company. So